2-year-old's not rational. It's upsetting.
Yeah, I know.
She did scare the living crap out of me, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're potty training, remember? And we're on the way to school, and she just goes, "Daddy, I poop." I was like, no, not now. And then my son goes, "Yeah, she did. I smell it." It's like, no, please, no. This was on Monday, too, where I had 2 pumpkins for their pumpkin decorating contest that I also had to find a way to handle. And I was like, no. It turns out she just farted, and she confuses farting and pooping still. So, but there was a moment of sheer terror when I was like, I'm going to pull into this daycare, and there's going to be shit everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I still remember the feeling when they do poop and you give a pooped child to the daycare people.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, something to take care of here. Actually, I think there might have even been a policy that was like, you're not allowed to do that. So, potty training.
That's
potty
fun,
training
man.
So traumatic for everyone involved.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast prank calling Mike Flanagan's house phone. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me as always, he's just doing a quick sweep of the grounds. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
Didn't see anything unusual. So, that's all I can do.
Yeah. Maybe do anything else?
I've done everything I can.
just a quick sweep.
Matt Freeman Security Company. We've done all we can.
That is the best slogan for a security company ever. We tried our best.
Yeah. We walked in a circle.
Just a quick sweep.
Yep.
My favorite part of the quick sweep part is actually Owen later when he runs into Miss Gross in the church. He's like, I was just doing a quick sweep of the grounds. It's like, okay, Owen. Yeah. You're as effective as the cops in this. I believe it. Anyway, this week on the show, we continue our time with Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Bly Manor. We are on episode 3, titled The Two Faces, Part 1. Ooh, Part 1, Matt. There's two Faces.
How exciting.
I know. This also marks the, we're a third of the way through the series now. 3 episodes in, we're a third of the way through the series. It is flying by very quickly. And I think we're really in the meat of it now. There's a lot in this episode, right? We finally get to meet Peter Quint. We finally get to meet Rebecca Jessel. We spend about half the episode in flashbacks, seeing how they met, their relationship. And then we don't quite see the end of the relationship because, as we kind of know, it ends with deaths. Right. We're not sure exactly how, but I think the show has set it up that neither of them were perhaps aware of the other's death when they were happening, right? So, or maybe they were, and that's just a thing we don't quite know yet. But we see the relationship start and then turn bad very, very quickly over the course of this episode. And of course, we get more stuff with some other relationships, including our main character, who we learn is perhaps not batting for the team that we thought she was at the very beginning of the show, which is, I just want to say here at the top before we get into it, I am so glad I don't have to pretend there's not obvious burning chemistry between those two characters, because I just didn't want to gesture towards it at all until you gestured towards it first. And so I've been trying to play that there's we talked about, I think we talked around it, that there's something going on between these two characters. There's some spark of something there. We didn't necessarily know it was going to be romantic until the very end of this episode, but that was driving me nuts that I had to pretend like I was blissfully ignorant of that.
Yeah. I mean, I was perceiving it more as some kind of tension between them.
Sure. It's tension, Matt. It's tension.
It is tension, right? I mean, it is literally some kind of tension. But I was thinking she dislikes her, or there's some, but yeah, it was not super surprising when that moment happens at the end of the episode.
Yeah, yeah, and it raises a lot of questions about who this man with the bright shiny glasses is as well, because I think the assumption there was that was a lost love, right? And
Yeah.
maybe it still is. People are bisexual, that is possible, or maybe it's not, we don't know.
Well, and we got a better look at the face of the man this time. More, I mean, usually it's like I don't know if I've mentioned this connection yet, but I always think about that one horrible villain in Sin City.
Yeah.
Where it's actually Elijah Wood.
It's Elijah Wood, yeah,
wearing glasses that are like constantly shining bright white like that, and the sort of the same gimmick in that movie, which is like you often don't see his face clearly, but in this one it really felt like we saw the person's face. And I think the reason I bring this up is they seemed older than I was expecting. Like I was expecting like a young man with glasses, and it was more like a not old man, but older man than I was expecting to see. Not that we got the best look in the world at him either, but I was like, oh, this is kind of different than I thought it would be.
He's still mostly wreathed in darkness.
Yeah.
We do get a shot of his hand reaching up on the bed, and it looks like the hand has been pretty mutilated. So something there. We don't know, but it seems like it's setting up that like the way the episode ends, we're going to be getting answers to those questions as early as next week, possibly.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, Matt, I just have to know, what are your overall thoughts on the episode? What did you think of this episode, and how are you feeling about the series now that we're a third of the way through it?
I found that maybe an unexpectedly tense episode to watch. I think it's because they really got me with the setting up something horrible is going to happen to Jessel and Quint in some order for some reason. We don't know why, we don't know how, and the significance of their relationship has been kind of built up for 2 episodes, and so then we actually see it. It's funny. It feels like it's been built up for longer than that. It's kind of funny. This is only episode 3, and I feel like, oh, finally. And it's like, what do you mean finally? Like this is episode 3. But like it I don't know, it carried weight, and it had me really kind of like just riveted and hanging on every scene between them. And I mean, the fact is we still don't actually know what happened to them. We don't know know how they died, but I was still very, very caught up in the drama of these 2 characters. I think we're going to talk about a lot of things, but one element that I wrote a disproportionate amount of my notes on this week was the character of Quint, and how like the needle we're threading with the depiction of Peter Quint here.
Yeah.
Where it's like you could just have this guy be like a villain. He's a scoundrel. He's a manipulator, and he kind of is all those things, but kind of not quite so simple, right? He's portrayed as sympathetic multiple times. He's actually nice to Miles. He gives what he at least thinks is good advice to Miles, although you could argue that maybe it's not actually good advice, but he seems to earnestly think it's good advice.
Yeah.
It's like he comes by his duplicity honestly. Like he's had this, he seems to be a guy who's had this rough life, who's sort of been taught by the world that he has to scheme and scrape and scrap to get what's coming to him, and so these are the only tactics that he has now. So like he can't even really like just woo a woman by being attractive and himself. He has to woo a woman by kind of
finding her key,
finding her key, looking for the angle, and it's like, you're an attractive man with a rich Scottish brogue. You could you don't have to do this.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought this up. I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about him, Rebecca as well. But I think this, as much as this is the episode that we finally get to meet Rebecca Jessel, and we learn quite a bit about her. I think it is Quint's episode ultimately. And yes, he is an incredibly complex, rich character, and I love him. I mean, I despise him in a lot of ways. But I love him.
Yeah.
I think he's fascinating to watch. So I love this. Let's definitely spend some time there for sure.
Right. I mean, the longtime listeners of our shows know that I have a sick fascination with like the villainous characters who are like especially if they're portrayed complexly, where you can understand where they're coming from, not necessarily think that they're right, but just like
Yeah.
I can see how you got there.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is Quint's episode. We open the episode with him in
Yeah.
a way that feels very much like this is the Peter Quint episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch him make his choices and make his mistakes. We see his vulnerabilities and his insecurities.
Yeah.
And it's just a fantastic character study of an episode.
I agree. This is my favorite episode of the show so far. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really into all these characters. I think the show has been really working on me, but finally making Quint and Jessel as characters in the story and not just abstract things we're referencing through the first 2 episodes really just, I think, really sends it into a higher gear for me. And I really loved it. Even just the stuff happening outside those 2 characters with, we see Danny and her relationship with Jamie really just starting in this episode. I think we're going to talk about it, but we see Owen and Mrs. Gross and a thing that's going on there as well, which is something that I don't know if I had specifically said to you, because again, it was one of these things that was like, it's on the edges. It's on it's in the background of those 2 characters, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't like tip the show's hand towards you too early with that, but I think this is the episode where we finally see at least from Owen's perspective how he feels. And there's just so much going on with the kids. Again, still we've got a lot going on with the kids. We learn more about the kids through their interactions with both Pete and Becca. And yeah, man, I love this episode, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as for the Owen and Mrs. Gross thing, which I'm going to keep calling her Mrs. Gross forever because that's who she is in the book, obviously.
She's Mrs. Gross in the show too. She's Hannah Gross, but they call her Mrs. Gross, which I do think is interesting because we don't know where the Mrs. is coming from. But
yeah,
I made that mistake in the first episode, and then when I was watching, I was like, no, it is Mrs. in the show too. Interesting.
Right. I mean, the thing I jumped to is maybe she's a widow, and maybe that's what one of the candles is for. But
sure,
I have no idea. I mean, she does seem to have this like somberness to her. Mm-hmm. I don't know how consciously I was making some of these assumptions, but like I saw Owen making these puppy dog eyes at her, and I interpreted her as being like either completely oblivious to this or just not interested. And then in this episode, they kind of moved that forward gradually in a way that, and then it ends. I mean, just I don't know how much. I don't know what there is really to say about this other than they get the phone call. I don't know. I forget like exactly what details are communicated, but it seems like probably Owen's mom has had a medical incident or something.
Yeah,
and he needs to rush off. I'm not sure if she's actually dead. I don't know if it says that or not.
I mean, the way so Jamie picks up the phone and like
she's like, "I'm so sorry." Yeah,
in a very as it turns out inappropriate way, is like, "Sorry, Pete, she's dead." And it turns out that's someone calling Owen to inform him that, yeah, I mean, I don't think the show has said his mother has passed away, but I think that's, you can read between the lines of I'm so sorry, Owen.
Right.
And yeah, like in the lover's tragedy sense, he picked this day of all days to stay at Bly. Mm-hmm. And to kind of not with the specific desire to like move his feelings towards Hannah further in any kind of way, but just because he's into her and there's a threat here, and he wanted to be the man that like is coming to come in and help and help out.
Yeah.
And of course he picks today of all days, and it's the day his mother dies. So I'm sure he's gonna carry that not at all.
Yeah, right.
Into the future.
Not going to have any consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fact that he didn't like rush off tells us that she probably was in fact dead and not like hurt.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, let's get into it proper. Just want to do the stuff we have to do at the beginning here. The Two Faces Part 1 was written by Diane Adimu John with Laura Penny and Rebecca Klingel as story editors. This was directed once again by Kieran Foy. This episode was edited by Brian Jeremiah Smith, so no Mike Flanagan on this one. Just Mr. Smith that edited this. The DP was once again Maxime Alexandra. Yeah, so no Flanagan on this one at all. This is not only our first another episode in which Flanagan did not write or direct, but He didn't even edit in this one. Now, of course, we talk about this all the time. A showrunner is, despite not maybe being behind the camera or with pen in hand, is basically like the project manager of this whole thing. He is making all the decisions. The cast and crew are supporting him. So like, this is not to say Flanagan was not involved in this episode at all, that he was just like drinking a Mai Tai on the beach somewhere while they were punching this episode out. But it is interesting that this is one where his name doesn't appear on any other than created by, it's just, it's just interesting.
We should have just skipped this episode.
Yeah. It's not really that important.
Yeah.
Which is, is great. I just want to say is great. Like, this is my favorite episode of the show so far. Right. So like it just goes to show you that like, it's not just like we're saying we like this because Flanagan did it, because we like Mike Flanagan. And so this is my favorite episode of the show because it's a damn good episode of television, no matter who was, actually punching out the script or sitting behind the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I so many things to like about it. It felt, maybe I say this partly because I watched it in like 2 different sittings, but it just felt so packed with information that I was kind of like surprised that it was only like a 45-minute, 50-minute episode. It felt longer, like in a good way. Like I was like, there's so many distinct parts of this episode. And again, part of it I think is that it's very, you feel very tense watching it because you kind of know this is all going to go badly somehow.
Yeah.
And you're nervous.
Yeah. And I think we finally got an answer to our question we asked in the very first episode, which is why set this in the 80s? And the reason becomes apparent to us within the first 5 minutes of this episode. And it's so we can have a montage of Peter Quint walking around doing errands in London while the song Tainted Love plays over it. And that's the entire reason we set it in the 80s. There it is right there. Really, really wonderful needle drop. Actually, I got a kick out of
it. Yeah, me too.
I wonder if we're saying anything with the song choice.
Yeah, I do. I love that sequence. Seeing all of his rich stylings and driving in the rolls. I love the shot that just like, I think it just like pulls focus on the Rolls Royce logo.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is the first part of what you were talking about in the introduction of like, who is this person and how much should we sympathize with them or not? This is a man who we're introduced via the language of the show as being of the rich upper class, right? He's going to a fancy tailor to pick up a shirt. He's going to a fancy liquor store to pick up fancy liquor. He gets in his Rolls Royce and drives away. And of course it becomes very obvious to us that none of this is his. This is just, he's the gopher, as he even says it himself, for Henry Thomas's character, Mr. Henry Wingrave, which we did get to see again. You questioned whether or not we were going to get to see Mr. Wingrave again, and we do, which is always great because we love Henry Thomas. But yeah, he's the gopher for this guy. He's the assistant, and so he's adjacent to all this stuff, but not really a part of it. And I think that's a really important part of his character. Ultimately, he hates rich people, right? Like over and over again in this episode, he talks about the absurdity of like having servants and ordering people around. He talks about the absurdly large house that is Bly Manor, how it's so unnecessarily large. He talks about these people, and he talks about it from this perspective of, isn't this awful? But it comes, in my estimation, from a sort of envy of that he hates this stuff because he wants it. He really wants it. He wants to be Henry Wingrave. I think as much as he insults Wingrave, he also, like, whenever someone else insults him, he kind of like, he's a good man. He just came upon some hard times, right? And it's like, sure, man. But that's who he wants to be. And he kind of, like, throughout the course of this episode, he kind of starts playing the part, right? He plays the part as the master of the house. Like he shows up, he goes into the basement and picks out an expensive Bordeaux. Mm-hmm. He goes into the master bedroom, and just says, even though that wing's off limits and this is mine now, he goes into the closet and picks the dead woman's coat to give to, like, he is basically acting and portraying as if this is his house and he rules it. And that's what he wants, right? That's what he wants. but he's just playing pretend at it. It's not, none of it's actually his. None of it actually belongs to him. He doesn't actually have this is not said, but I think it's a fair assumption to make that he doesn't actually have the blessing of Henry to do any of this. Arguably, did Henry even send him here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm at Bly on errands for the next few days. Really? What are you doing? And I think later he says like, yeah, one of my jobs is to inventory this wing. I'm like, sure, bud. I believe that. So like, he's just, I mean, this is what's hard about should we or should we not sympathize with him, Matt, is there's no clear indication what he is saying is bullshit meant to manipulate and what is sincere. And I do think there is some sincerity here. I do want to say that. Like, I think there are lines and moments in this episode that we see Peter Quint for who he really is. But there's also a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of saying the thing that he knows Rebecca wants him to say. And so that kind of makes it hard to draw exactly where the line, where Peter Quint, the person, and Peter Quint, the character or the key, begins and ends.
Yeah. That's what kind of makes him fun, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
I really like the scene where it's just him and Rebecca, and he sort of, Sherlock's out her motives, or rather, he kind of like draws her out into confessing them.
Yeah.
Her plan to basically unveil herself with the upper class by becoming an au pair, and then that way you're like, well, you're off limits for sexual harassment because you're, but I know you and I know your character, and then she can be advanced in her career through this kind of interesting backdoor angle, which is very clever. And I feel like the fact that Peter, I forget exactly like whether he anticipates her and he's like he sees it before she even reveals it, or whether, I thought so. So it's like that tells you kind of where his head is at, and it immediately made me think like, well, of course he would anticipate her plan because that's his plan.
Yeah,
like for different reasons. He's not worried about getting groped, but he's worried about being dismissed as a underclass person.
Yeah. I mean, excellent point. I mean, we see him as the guy, the thing he tells Miles at the very beginning of the episode, the line we had from episode 2 where Miles is talking about just trying to find your key. One of the things we learn here is that came from Peter, that he learned that from Peter. And that is the way Peter looks at the world. The way Peter looks at the world is he's constantly trying to feel people out and find what it is that motivates them. And so he's always going to have a plan. I think it is really interesting because I think you're totally right that there is a lot online. And I think one of the things that actually genuinely attracts him, what about Rebecca attracts him, is he identifies with the way she's attempting to play the game of society to get ahead. That they are doing something similar, that they are ingratiating themselves with these rich, powerful people to overcome the parts of them that society looks down on, right? Like she is a black woman. He is Scottish. That's really rough to get over as well. That's you just can't ever escape from being Scottish, unfortunately. I actually think it is interesting that, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I think she is more disadvantaged than he is, but I think if you asked him that, he would say, no, I'm not. We both have our limitations, and we're both stuck at our own glass ceiling. And I'm not saying he's not wrong. Like, I think he is correct, but I think he can pass in that upper echelon of society much easier than she can. Especially since, like, one of the differences between their plans and their goals is hers is really specific, right? She's like, I don't want to just be a solicitor. I want to be a barrister, which is, if I don't know if you know how, like, law in England works, but barristers are basically like trial lawyers. They're like a solicitor is just lawyer, general lawyer, deals with the law. Barrister is like, you hire those people to go into court and make arguments in court, and that's a big deal. It's a big no judgment to anyone that's a solicitor, but it's like it's a higher class of lawyer. They usually make more money, and it requires it's a lot of politicking as well, and that's what she wants. Peter, what does Peter want? Well, it's a lot more vague.
Mm-hmm.
When she asks him that question directly, he's like, I just want to leave the world with more than I took, which is like, okay, sure. But he like, do you have like a job you want to do? Do you have like a career you want? Do you have like and it's like, no, I just want to be rich and powerful. And I think the rich part of it is maybe less important to him than the power part of it.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I think he's got like obviously has this huge chip on his shoulder, but it's unfocused. He like fundamentally he strikes me as the kind of person who doesn't believe that he is worthy in some deep way. Doesn't believe he's worthy of love. Doesn't believe he's worthy of success, but is desperate for those things regardless, because of course he is. All people are.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, but because he doesn't believe he's worthy, he thinks that the only way to get those things is to connive and deceive.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that he takes. I mean, when it comes to wealth, he connives and deceives to have all the trappings of wealth. He probably doesn't actually have nearly as much money as he seems to.
No, I mean, he's a glorified driver, right? I mean, that's like, he is, what does he do? What does he do for Henry? Is a barrister. He's a pretty high-end lawyer. What does Peter do for him? Like, he's not writing briefs. Like that's one thing. We don't see him do any actual like law work for him, right? What do we see him do? We see him pick up dry cleaning, tailoring. We see him pick up booze for the guy. We see him drive people around for him.
Right.
There's one scene where he's in or Bly Manor rather, where like Rebecca walks in the door and he like puts papers in his briefcase and closes his briefcase like, oh, yep, done with my work. What are you doing, Peter? Like what is your job?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably part of the manipulation and part of the way he holds himself is like, he's not an assistant to Henry. He even says it. He even says it when he introduces himself to Rebecca Jessel in the interview. I'm Peter Quint. I work with Henry.
Uh-huh.
Really? With him? Yeah. Really? And even if he has to be the one that basically takes over and runs the interview for the au pair, like even if like because Henry Wingrave is an absolute shit show of a mess, he's still kind of just his secretary. And there's nothing wrong with secretarial work, but like that's not what Peter Quint wants.
Right.
And Peter himself would look down upon that. Like that's not what he's worthy of.
He's trying to portray this idea that he's like a business partner, which he just isn't. I felt like he even kind of tricks you. I speak for myself. Like when he's at the house, I would forget like he doesn't actually have any particular authority here. It's actually kind of uncomfortable. I think Mrs. Gross is the only one who really shows us how uncomfortable this is, because it's like, it's kind of weird and inappropriate that you're here, dude.
Yeah.
And you can see in her vibe that she doesn't like this at all. It's not like he's like the master of the house or even representing the master of the house. He's just another guy who works for the master of the house and really shouldn't be here, and like is maybe kind of interfering with the children's education, is definitely distracting the children's new au pair from doing her job.
Yeah. Remember when he pulls her into the master bedroom and is like, don't worry, I took care of the kids.
Uh-huh.
And then Hannah Gross comes a few minutes later and says, excuse me, Mrs. Clayton, the children are just on the lawn.
Yeah.
So by took care of the kids, he's like, hey, just go outside unsupervised for like 20 minutes, please.
I so loved the British disdain in that scene.
Yes.
Where she's like, a blouse, perhaps?
Dude, she's so good. One of my favorite characters, like Hannah Gross. I love her so much. This is Tania Miller who plays her. Just a reminder, she's excellent. I love. There's two moments in this episode where she gets to really like push back and assert her place and her role in this household. She does it with the police officer that's kind of just being blithely dismissive of Danny's concerns. And then we get to see her do it again with Peter. She's not going to be she's not the type that's going to stand by and let this stuff happen, or be in her proper place, as it were. She's going to stand up for what she knows is right, even at risk of her job. And I think that's really, you really like this character, I think.
Yeah, I felt like I liked her a lot in this episode, and in past episodes I've maybe overlooked her just because, I mean, part of it is like I have her in a compartment because it's like, oh, that's Mrs. Gross, the character from the book, and she's clearly not just that, right?
It is interesting. I know we're getting off of the topic at hand, but I just wanted to mention that when we talk about her, one of the things that I noticed in this episode that I thought was interesting is, as compared to the turn of the screw, I don't think there's any moment where you think that, like, for example, Mrs. Gross doesn't believe Danny about what she saw. And I think that's true for everyone. Like Owen and Jamie, there's no questioning of what Danny saw in that. The only person that is questioning whether she really saw it is the police officer, because he's doing and so did the kids see this guy? Did you see this guy? No, we didn't see him. But like no one has any doubts here. And I think part of that is just, I saw a face of a man. Did he look like this Polaroid picture? Yes, that's exactly who it was. That's a little bit more believable. But I mean, there were moments in the turn of the screw that we, at least you and I, read it as Mrs. Gross was uncertain whether she was really buying into what the governess was saying or not. And I do think it's interesting that at least the point of view of the show is there is no doubt amongst the members of the house that Danny saw who she thought she saw. Yeah. Now, they don't think he's dead. And in fact, I am curious. We know he's dead because we read the book, but like, I am wondering if at this point, do you think that the show wants us viewers to know that that Peter Quint is dead as well?
I suspect so, because he shows up as an apparition in 2 or 3 different places where you're just like, that's a ghost. That's definitely a ghost.
Yeah.
Him showing up in the window and then like smiling at the boy and everything. And I mean, in particular, when he like moves back from the window and clearly and just disappears. It's not like, in other words, we're not just pretending like, well, maybe he's just literally here. And he just disappeared into the night. It's like, no, he definitely is a ghost.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just wasn't sure about that, because obviously, like, I had seen the show before, and we both read the book, so we knew Peter Quint in the story is a dead man, and a ghost that's appearing here. But yeah, okay, cool. What were we talking about? I can't even remember anymore.
I think, I don't know. We were just kind of looking at Mrs. Gross as a character who is sort of maybe in a way coming to her own in this episode.
Yeah, I really did love it. I think she's great. There's still a lot of mystery about what's going on with her, right? We have this crack that she's seen now appearing in 2 separate places. The first time she saw it in the kitchen, and then it wasn't really there. This time she sees it in the church, and it is also not really there. She even acknowledges this time that it's disappeared. So
yeah, she just like looks back and it's not there.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. I don't know where we're going with that. Kind of vaguely reminds me of Danny's thing with mirrors.
Yeah, maybe she's haunted by something.
Right.
Something that's following her, just over her shoulder or something. I don't know. Maybe one of her biggest fears is the collapse of this place. That she's kind of responsible for Bly in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and it's in danger. So yeah,
and she's seeing cracks in the foundation, metaphorically.
Yeah, could be. All right, but Peter, we were talking about Peter, and then we got sidetracked by the wonderful Mrs. Gross for giving him what for, which was great. But yeah, I mean, like the moments where he's like, he tells Miles he didn't have a good relationship with his father. That's the kind of stuff that I just believe there. And then I think there's, when he's talking to Rebecca, and he is basically like talking about his own glass ceiling and the way that he's kind of ignored and like I believe that too. I believe that's who he is. I also believe the moments at the end when he gets fiercely jealous for absolutely no reason. I think that's him too, right? That is him revealing a part of himself that he had maybe held back. But that all comes from his own insecurity, right? That all come from his, as you said, he doesn't like himself very much. And he's incredibly insecure about himself and his place. And so it is really funny to me. I first of all, I think the batter scene is such a great scene as a whole. It's fun because we get Raul Coley making just terrible batter puns throughout the entire scene. It's great seeing all the kids interact and like just like seeing everyone like happy in a room together is really fun. And then he is so clearly flirting with Hannah Gross in that scene, like so clearly flirting with Hannah Gross.
Yeah.
And yet for Peter to look at that scene and see anything else than that is just patently absurd. And it's just like, this is really like sharp storytelling because there's no, it's set this up that there's no hint of confusion for us, the viewer, that we are just completely like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, did you watch that scene? Like, he put batter on the side of her face. Like, he's hitting on her real hard. And yet you think that he was doing that to Rebecca? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, I also, it makes you really love Owen because the reason why he's doing this is because he detects, I mean, he's just kind of a jokey guy who will do funny stuff in general. But in this particular case, he detects that there's this cloud over everything. He doesn't know why. He doesn't understand what happened. I don't think anyone has told him about the incident that just happened in the Forbidden Wing. But he's like, all right, got to lighten it up. We'll play a little game with the batter and get the kids laughing. And once the kids are laughing, everyone will be happy. And maybe he, worst misjudges how bad of a situation it is that he thinks he's just going to kind of brush it aside, which is fine. It just makes him more lovable that he's the guy who will step in to try to cheer things up.
He's such a wonderful, like, I think we're going to continue to get more of him throughout the show. But yeah, I mean, he's like been this constant ray of sunshine in the show so far. Like we talked last week, his stuff with Flora is delightful. And then we get to see more of it and just realizing how much he is really into Hannah, just really completes the character for me. And now, unfortunately, we're going to have to see him go through some difficult times.
Yeah. I mean, already at the end of the episode, we saw him, like, we see him as this cheerful, stolid guy who's just like, he's always got a smile on his face, even if kind of rough things are happening. He's always there. He's the literal shoulder to rest your head on, right?
Yeah.
And then you just see him heartbroken at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, and it's really effective because of the magnitude of the shift in the character. Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a lot of things that hasn't been said about him yet. Like that, just like he does not like Bly, right? And he got out, but he was pulled back in it because of his mother. Like, once again, like he's a chef that was training in Paris, which is like, if you're a chef and you're getting to learn how to cook and cook professionally in Paris, that's the Everest, right? That's it. You've made it. And he had to leave all that behind to come back here. And I think there's going to be a lot of really wound up emotions, like the guilt of not being there for his mother, but also maybe the anger of having been forced to come back here and like put his life and career on hold, and then his feelings for Hannah. And then like all this, I think, is going to just makes for what has been for 3 episodes, a fun, like kind of warm, happy side character, has the makings of some great drama going forward.
Yeah.
I think, which is really fun.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I'm you're so right that he detects the air of the scene, because Mrs. Gross is still furious at Peter. Peter's pissed off already himself, and primarily pissed off because he got a talking down to, which is like she does. Like, speaking of keys, like she finds the key to the insecurity door, and she nails him with it, because
Right.
you are not as powerful as you think you are. You are not better than us. You are us. Like you don't have any special power. Like I don't think we've said this. He's Worm Tongue, right? That's who he is. He's the Worm Tongue to Saruman, and he doesn't have any power himself.
I like that. I thought the most powerful moment in that exchange where she's berating him is where she goes, she says, I will get you kicked out of here if you do anything like this again.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, do you understand? Which is a very like power move thing to say.
Yeah.
And he just continues staring at her with the same exact like icy anger without acknowledging at all. And then she's like,
clean this up.
Good. Like, you kind of see her like draw back a little bit as she kind of realizes like, okay, he's not.
Yeah.
I haven't cowed him.
Yeah.
Actually, he seems like a really dangerous guy who maybe I shouldn't talk to this way. Not. And maybe should do something about. And then he leaves, luckily. So
you're so right, and that's why like the line from the cop at the very beginning of the episode I think is so great, because he basically dismisses Danny's worry and is just like, yeah, he's a bastard and a thief, but he's not dangerous. He wouldn't hurt anyone. And like the story of this episode is actually learning by the end of it that you're like, no, I actually think he would actually. Like he is incredibly insecure, incredibly like immature in a lot of ways, and cannot control his anger. Like I actually the scene with him and Rebecca in bed, which is like, I think the show has a really good pace of itself, where like it actually paints this relationship like in a positive light at the beginning. Like these are two people and they're similar, and they're kind of two people of a lower class that are manipulating the riches for their own benefit. And like, I think we as viewers get behind that. It's like, hell yeah, fuck the rich people. And so there is a lot of, I think, like, despite the fact that the show has told us throughout 2 episodes that this was a bad relationship and we should not support it, there is a lot of, I think, being like, oh yeah, they seem well for each other. I think the actors have chemistry. I think they both do a very good job. And so we're kind of on board for the ride, despite the tension hovering over it, that we kind of know where this goes. And then the moment with them in the bed, and I love the scene because it's such it begins as just like a cute relationshipy thing that people do sometimes, where you're laying in bed together and then one person is like, oh shit, I gotta get up, I gotta go, I gotta start my day, I got stuff I gotta do. And there's that cute moment of like, oh no, stay, and like you play that little game of no, please stay. And that's a fun little game you play, and then it ends obviously when the person has to get up and go about their day. And it starts that way, and then at the very end of the scene he grabs her arm and he holds onto her and it's like, no, stay. And you're just like, oh, like this is something that's been there under the surface that we hadn't actually seen bubble up fully yet. And it's like, okay. And that is when we really start to push the transition towards where we kind of were told it was going at all times. But that is the initial point of us heading down that road, which is capped off by the moment after the batter incident, the assault and battery.
Yes. The battered woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see his possessive streak there. I mean, there, depending on how Machiavellian you want to read it, like that could be him like testing to see whether she will tolerate, how she will react to sort of a minor act of possessiveness. So and then the thing with the fur coat later is another sort of like, this is my vision of how this is going to go, and you're going to play into it, sort of thing. That
and like demanding she take off her shirt. Put on this fur.
Right. And she seems like mildly uncomfortable with it, but also like it's very borderline for her whether like is this romantic or creepy. Like I thought it's very uncomfortable. I don't know if this is like the common read of the scene, but like she is not playing the scene as like, oh yeah, this is sexy, this is hot, I love this. She's playing it like, all right, I'll play along. And she's swept up in him. I think that's one thing that Jamie says when she's talking to Danny
the night of the present is like she watched as he really like got like wrapped her around, like got her wrapped around his fingers, and really like he poured it on thick and manipulated her. And like, I just want to say, I do think that these two people loved each other on some level. Like, I think one of the things the show talks about is like the different kinds of love, and there's bad kinds of love. I think there was love. I mean, that's one thing we can say is like, there's an argument maybe that Peter had no feelings for her and was just using her or manipulating her, or like, I don't think that's true. I think he genuinely had feelings for her. I think there's moments that the actor does a very good job of seeing how he is impressed with her and kind of taken aback by her and into her. Now, one of the things the show also talks about is the difference between love and possession, and that's like a big theme that we got going on here. And I think Danny makes the argument that those two things are diametrically opposed to each other. And Peter's love for her is totally possession based. But so, I mean, I think she is swept up into the arms of a man who is putting himself off as rich and powerful, that is very good looking, as the Scottish accent, and is just seemingly so into her that, yeah, I mean, my read of that scene is yours, that she's uncomfortable with the situation. She knows we're not supposed to be in this room. She knows it's her job to be looking after the kids. She knows all this is wrong. And maybe on some level, I think she doesn't buy his bullshit about how like, oh yeah, the boss said I could give you this coat, and that and that she never wore it. Like, I don't think she really fully buys that. And so like, she's uncomfortable, but eventually gets swept up into him, and kind of like lets herself go a little bit briefly, and then that's when Hannah Gross walks in the door and it comes crashing back to earth for her. And so like, it's complicated. It is really complicated, but I think your read is right there.
I like how, we return to this Polaroid a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's a progressive Kuleshov effect with the because like the first time you see it, I had an impression of like just like two beautiful people who were in love, and I think Danny looks at it and says Bonnie and Clyde, and it's like that kind of that impression projects itself onto you, where you're like, yeah, they're the two of them against the world, right?
Yeah.
And then as the episode goes on, we return to it a couple more times, and then like by the last time we see it, you realize, like, it's weird. I was like, is this a different photo? Like, is this and it's because like she's wearing the coat, which you now see as like, oh, that's the Mrs. coat, that she's not supposed to be wearing, and he's got his arm around her in this like claw-like possessive way, and he's looking, and like his expression has now become this sort of like dead-eyed, like cold anger, and hers looks mildly like pensive, and it's like, wait, are those the expressions they had before, or am I just like projecting now because I know the context of that scene and what this relationship actually was? It's just like I've never quite experienced a degree of manipulation around an image like this. I love it.
It's fantastic because like they do not look happy at all. In that photo, like they just do not look happy. Right. He looks controlling and she looks uncomfortable.
I mean, they don't look happy, but you sort of, for some reason, I just read it as like, when two hot people want to take a picture of themselves, they don't always smile. They're
like being modelly.
They're being modelly, right? That's what I thought they were doing. It's like, no, they're actually just like not actually happy.
He's happy, but he's happy because he's in control. And he's showing that on his face. It's great. It's great stuff. It is like, and it is kind of remarkable that we play this relationship out pretty quickly, relatively. I mean, like it's interspersed throughout the episode, but it's a 50-something minute episode, and it's maybe about half the episode. So we get to see basically the birth and I mean, not literal death, but the turn of this relationship over the course of like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talked last week about how the flashback in the pupil episode did something a little bit differently, where it the entire flashback was contained in one sequence in the middle of the episode. This is much more the traditional flashback structure that we see in the Lostian kind of way, where we are cutting back and forth between these two time periods. I say the Lostian way, it's also just very reminiscent of what Hill House did, right? Where the flashback moments are interspersed throughout the other moments of the show. And we get to see in this one those moments of connections back and forth between the present and the past. I think the show was having a lot of fun with those. I really appreciated a lot of those. I think my favorite was Rebecca pulls Peter in to sleep with him and the door closes, and then we cut to the next scene with that same door opening and it's Danny walking out of the door. That was one of my favorite ones. Another thing that I wanted to talk about that is kind of the visual nature of it. So one thing I noticed specifically, I think it was in I'm trying to remember exactly which scene it was. I think it was in the statue garden, where when we're in the past, there's this very specific, dreamy, nostalgic, but haunting score to everything. And I think it is all around when Rebecca shows up at Hill House for the first time, which I think one thing we're doing, we haven't talked about the idea of two faces, the titular title of this episode. And I think, one interpretation is just that our wonderful Peter Quint is a very two-faced person. But I think another read of that is the two different faces of the two different au pairs, right? And I think the show is doing a lot of things of comparing Rebecca's time at Bly Manor with how Danny's time at Bly Manor is going. I mean, they both came here, they both fell in love with an employee. Well, okay, Danny hasn't yet, but the sparks are there with Jamie, right? We'll see how that goes. And so we're doing a lot of comparisons between both of their times. And one thing I couldn't get over is Rebecca's entrance into Bly Manor is so like picturesque and perfect. Like she rolls up, it's a beautiful day out, and there's this haunting, this dreamy, nostalgic music playing, and everyone's out front. Both the kids are out front and all the employees are out front, and like she meets them all in that moment. There's no moment where like Jamie walks in and doesn't introduce herself because they've never actually met moment. Like they're all there out front meeting her, and it's wonderful and happy. And then she takes her through the statue garden, and it's this wonderful scene of Flora leading her through the statue garden, and we get to see that the phrase "perfectly splendid" actually came from Rebecca Jessel, which makes it actually even more tragic that she uses it. Like it's an interesting note because like it places context on her use of that and breaks your heart a little bit, actually. Yeah. But so we have this haunting music, the score, picturesque, dreamy, and there's like a hard cut in the statue garden from that to the statue garden at night when Danny is out there with a flashlight doing her own sweep of the property. And it's just really like it serves to emotionally juxtapose these two things, that we are in the present now. We are a year later, and things are bad. Things are bad now. I really just liked how the show communicated that visually a lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's interesting. I wonder, I mean, I don't know what to say about this really, other than I agree with you that like Rebecca just like fit in this house. It's like she's just she's the perfect person to be the au pair to these kids. She's British, and she's classy, and the children like immediately take to her.
Yeah.
And then there's there's like a contrast where Danny, American, everyone notices how American she is, and she doesn't have the equivalent of the like perfectly splendid moment, because if anything, like you said, her first arrival is kind of awkward, and there's the moment when Miles semi-accidentally peeps on her while she's changing, and
are we still saying semi-accidentally?
I just
go watch the scene again and tell me he didn't do it on purpose.
I just think it's meant to be like it's very carefully cut so that you don't actually know one or the other, is my opinion.
Okay.
But
sure.
Anyway. Gonna relitigate Miles Gate again. No, but like I like that Danny is not a fit, but it's kind of interesting. I feel like I'm reaching here, but it's like maybe the fact that she's not a fit is going to help her to not be trapped in the same snare that took out not only Jessel and Quint, but possibly the kids' parents. I mean, we don't know exactly how haunted this place is and how many people it has killed,
we know they were away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe their ghosts are not here because I think that's one thing Miles says is it's not fair. Why'd all the bad ones come back and they don't come back. Yeah. So, no, but I think that's a fair point. There are ghosts freaking everywhere in this house. And yeah. I love what you said about her not fitting because and I don't think that's a criticism of like the job that she's doing, because I think she's doing a fine job with the children. But yeah, it is an order of magnitude different from Rebecca Jessel. Like, yeah, just I think making her an American was such a smart move there of really selling the idea that she doesn't quite belong here. She doesn't quite fit in here. And maybe that's good because maybe the people that do fit in here never leave.
Yeah. You mentioned Miles and his cryptic monologues. I figured that's a good transition to talking about story time.
Oh, story time. Yay. Let's talk about story time, Matt. I think my favorite line in the episode is when the phone rings in the middle of Miles' rant and Owen goes, "Oh, thank Christ, saved by Peter Quill."
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you make of it? I'll just let you go. So we have Flora's story about what is the name of the bunny?
I forget.
I wrote it down.
Something delightful.
Yeah. Tails the cat. It's not a bunny. It's Tails the cat. And then her story transitions into Poppet the Puppet by Miles, who mid monologue changes his tone a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because I really love this because like first of all, her whole thing is this like wonderfully written, precisely rhyming speech.
Yeah.
That is excellent. And I felt like laden with meaning that I wasn't able to penetrate. And then his speech begins being perfectly rhyming. And then at a certain point, like you said, it totally breaks off. He breaks the rhyming scheme abruptly, and then the tone totally changes. And he's talking about the puppets who forget that they have strings, and their master comes back, and he's so angry at the puppets, and then he pulls their strings, and it hurts. And you're like, oh my God, I love this. This is awesome. I love this kid. These actors are great.
Yeah. They're both, these kids are so freaking good. I mean, him especially, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy, like they're asking a lot of this kid, and not to say they're not asking a lot of Flora's character as well, but they're asking a lot of Miles.
There's a very I was blown away by that because there's sort of a moment when he starts giving the speech where what you're seeing is he's like a little nervous and a little wobbly, and you're like. And on some level in your mind, you're like, oh, the child actor is having difficulty with the performance. But then when he switches over to the darkness, he's like completely riveting to watch. And he's like, oh, no, he was pretending to be nervous. He was I don't know. It's just a great multi-layered performance from this kid. I can't wait to see. I mean, this was a few years ago, so this kid's got to be doing something by now, right?
I don't know what he's been in outside of this. Let's look this up. He's a kid named Benjamin Evan Ainsworth.
I love that. That was one of my favorite sequences of this episode, which wasn't even. It was very light on Miles, and then he just kind of comes in at the end, and he's like, "Don't forget about how awesome I am as a character." And yeah.
Apparently he played Pinocchio in the Robert Zemeckis Pinocchio movie a few years ago. Cool. He's also going to be Link in The Legend of Zelda live action adaptation.
That's going to be big.
Yeah. That's a big thing for him. Good for him. That's great.
No longer worried about his career at all.
Yeah, so I mean, so Flora's story is about Tails the cat, a cat who was looking for her mother, and found a sweater and like pulled all the yarn out and made it into a thing that could keep her warm, which I think you could maybe interpret as like she's still working through the loss of her parents and the loss of Ms Jessel. But she maybe finds and repurposes something that provides her with a certain level of happiness. I don't know. It's difficult. I had a difficult time reading exactly what we're supposed to take from the tale of Tails the cat.
Or like, you destroyed something in an effort to get the use out of it that it was intended for. I don't know. I agree that, I mean, both of their stories to me, I'm like, okay, this is obviously going to make sense later because it doesn't quite make sense to me right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think you're looking at Poppet the puppet. It's definitely like, okay, so we got Claude the puppet master who's mad at the puppets for forgetting that they're under his control. Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, who is Claude and who are the puppets? Right.
Yeah,
because part of like you're like, well, are the ghosts the puppets, or are the people in the house the puppets, or is Claude? I mean, there's nobody named Claude that we know of. We got a creepy plague doctor guy who's a ghost, but
we got more than that, man. Did you know like there's a ton of ghosts in this episode? Did you notice any of them?
I think I noticed at least one, possibly two. Although now that I'm thinking about this, I'm not entirely sure this wasn't actually last episode, but anyway, no, I didn't notice a ton. I noticed a couple, maybe.
There's a soldier that, like in the first episode with the plague doctor, there's a soldier ghost that is in almost every scene of this. One of the most blatant ones is it's the scene with Jessel and Flora. I think they're playing with the puppets and talking about not the puppets, the dolls. They're playing with the dolls that she creates. And there's literally a soldier doll in the pile of dolls, and then there cuts to a shot and over Jessel's shoulder, just standing there in the room, is a soldier just right there. He's just right there. And you wonder, like, do the kids see all of them all the time, right? That's the thing about these ghosts is like, we know the kids are aware that there's ghosts in this house, right? We know none of the grown-ups seem aware of it, but are the kids seeing them? Like in this shot, I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Flora can see over Jessel's shoulder. Is she seeing the soldier there like right now? Is she seeing that? And she's just like used to it. And this is just her existence in this house. And so she's chilling with it. I don't know, but no, they're everywhere. There's like a little girl ghost at some point. The plague doctor makes his return as well. He's in this a lot. They're stuffed everywhere.
I continue to not be very good at noticing the ghosts.
It's literally on my first view, I never noticed them except for like one or two. Like the one I definitely noticed is the soldier is when the cop's leaving the house. At the very beginning of the episode, the soldier's like just standing under the stairs at the end of the hall. I noticed that the first time, but for the most part, I didn't notice them until like my second or third look through, because I mean, one of my rewatches I do specifically to just like, part of my goal with this rewatch is see if I can spot anything on the exteriors of the frame.
Yeah. I think I might have noticed that one because I think if you and I are thinking of the same shot, it's like that's half the frame is that part of the room, and there's just like clearly a figure standing there.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think I don't feel too bad that I'm not noticing the ghosts, because I feel like it's just like, look, the drama is working on me. I'm paying attention to the actors' faces and the thing that is existing between the characters in the scene, and it's not really being shot as like a horror scene. So I'm not like on edge looking around the frame for stuff that's going to jump out and get me.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we've picked out about, Flanagan's style overall, not just directorial style, but like storytelling style, is he basically teaches you, don't worry about random jump scares. There's not zero, but there's very few random jump scares. And so you aren't in that like nearly fight or flight mode that you watch most kind of horror stuff in, where you're like always on edge about what could be happening, or if it's going to be a tense scene with monsters and ghosts and whatever, then the show tells us that that's what's happening, and then we go into that mode, right?
Yeah.
So we're just not looking for them. We're just not primed, but it's affecting us subconsciously. It's giving us that unnerved feeling of stuff happening that we're not quite noticing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Especially like in Hill House, we mostly concentrated on the ghosts' faces, not always, but mostly, and they were always pale, and so they didn't always like stick out in the frame, but they were much more evident in the frame because of their paleness, and because human beings are just very good at like recognizing faces. And so like even if you weren't consciously noticing them, I think that on subconscious level there was just like something felt off when you're looking at the screen. Something feels different. There's something there that maybe you haven't noticed. And I think you take that same feeling to Bly. Obviously the ghosts, they're treating them very different here. None of them I think we've seen their full face. Like even I think we have the doll, we have a little kid with like a doll mask on that we saw back in the dolls in the basement, and then we actually see that one in a mirror reflection in Flora's room when when Danny walks by. It's a great one that I only saw because I was going through the scene frame by frame looking for stuff. But you see the reflection of the doll in the mirror. It's faced a certain direction. Danny walks by, and you just see the doll's head turn to follow her. I was like, oh fuck. But yeah, I mean, they're just there in the frame. I think you're absolutely right that one thing the show has established is these ghosts in the background of the frame are not a threat, right? Mm-hmm. None of them have ever actively tried to do anything to our characters just to be in conflict. They're just there. They're just hovering there in the corners of the frame, observing, and it gets this sense, as you said, this sense, this feeling that there's like the feeling that you're being watched, the characters are being watched, that there's something here, whether you notice them or not. And I think we had a commenter who said like, I think it's a really cool thing, but I think it's sometimes maybe a little distracting, and like because you're being pulled to the edges of the frame instead of what's happening in the middle. And I would say like don't do that, right? I don't think anyone watching the show just for enjoyment should be on their first watch sitting there going, wonder if there's a hidden ghost in this scene. Hold on. I think you should just watch the show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, maybe like you said, your subconscious will pick up on these extra people in the frame that maybe you didn't consciously notice. And it's a fun Easter egg for people after watching the show to come spend some time and go ghost hunting. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's not the primary, pull of the show for me. And it's not a thing that like ultimately like anyone needs to be looking out for, which is why we don't have a section where I point out ad nauseum every single instance of a ghost appearing.
Yeah. I like what you said about the difference between this and Hill House, where Hill House focused more on faces. And this one, I'm having trouble even thinking like of the ghosts that I have noticed in this one, and of the like screenshots you shared with me. I feel like we never see ghosts' faces. Like even when we would see the face, they're like wearing a mask or something.
Yeah.
And or in the case of the plague doctor, like a really obvious mask. And I think that actually goes a long way to making them less distracting, because like a human shaped figure that is out of focus, generally it's like, well, that could just be like curtains or something. Like it's not really bothering me that much. But a face that's out of focus, very hard to not see as a face.
Yeah.
And like the eyes especially.
Yeah. I will at this point remind you that the introduction of this show is pictures of people whose faces are melting away as well. Right. So I think the show is talking about faces specifically in ways with that. And you're right. None of the ghosts we've seen seen their faces either. It's been like I think I'm thinking of the woman in the attic who I think you noticed something was wrong with her face, but we get very little window into what she actually looks like. The soldier has his hat pulled down, so we only kind of see the bottom of his face. The plague doctor you already mentioned. We have the kid wearing the doll mask. Yeah, we've got a lot of covering of faces here. I think the only ones we've seen are Peter and Rebecca. Those are the only faces we've seen on ghosts.
Right. I think maybe one of the reasons why I said like the ghosts are the dolls in Miles's monologue is because they literally look like dolls. Like they have been transformed into being dolls.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say Flora has a doll for every single ghost that's in this house, right?
Right.
Like we've seen them all now. I think like
Right.
in the very first episode when we did a cut through the dollhouse, there was a attic doll, right? There was a kid with a doll mask doll. There was a soldier doll. I think there was a plague doctor doll as well. And she even says that in this episode, like when she is talking to Jessel about dolls, and Jessel's talking about how dolls are great. You can make them up and play games with them. And Flora's like, but they're not made up. They're real.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, she's making dolls for everyone she sees, ghosts and otherwise.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know if we specifically mentioned, like, Flora is just younger than Miles.
Yeah, she's 7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So and she's been kind of dealing with this crazy ghost shit for her entire life, seemingly. So
yeah,
her, metaphysics of what's happening is in a way like whimsical but also practical, where it's like, yeah, you got to make the dolls and you got to do the rituals with the dolls, or currently undefined bad things happen.
Yeah.
And I think Miles being maybe like 4 or 5 years older, I don't actually know how old Miles is supposed to be. Is he like 11 maybe? I'm just guessing by his appearance.
So I think Jessel says, the only reason I know this, I think Jessel says 7 and 9.
Okay.
Which I think that's in the flashback. So I think they would technically be 8 and 10.
Yeah.
He reads a little older than 9 to me, but then again, I haven't been around 9 and 10-year-olds in a long, long time. My kids are younger than that. So
well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I have. So yeah, I'm saying, like, just based on kids I know, I would guess the actor is like 11 or 12, but that implies very little about how old the character is supposed to be. But anyway, he has a different sense of what's going on, was my point of bringing all that up. It's like he's more like, okay, this is weird, not normal, probably evil. There's danger here. And also, for some reason, knows or thinks that the adults wouldn't believe him if he tried to explain what was happening.
Yeah.
Like, there's what I always love about Miles is there's this edge of like resentment that's buried where he's like, I feel like I'm projecting, but it's like, why are you adults so useless? Like, why do I have to do everything? I don't know if I'm correct about this, but there's a lot of anger. It's not just anger at like having lost his parents and all that. It's like not only are you not helping, but I have to like manage you while I'm managing the ghosts and keeping my sister safe.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we continue to kind of question what's going on with these kids. I think one thing we didn't get a lot of in this episode was Miles stuff. Like, Miles was the big focus of last week's episode, and he kind of takes a step back in this episode. The majority of the focus is on Peter, obviously. We do get a little bit though, and I think we get a little bit of Flora stuff too. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think's going on with Flora? So we have the scene where she has left bed early and is standing out by the lake, almost kind of in a trance. And then when Danny comes and grabs her to pull her back in, she like freaks out, and we get to see Rebecca Jessel, or the ghost of Rebecca Jessel, standing on the other side of the lake in her black dress, because her favorite color is all the colors.
Yeah.
And so what do you make of what's happening there with young Flora?
Well, my first thought was from the turn of the screw, which is what the governess thought, which is like the children are being possessed, or some evil force is trying to possess them.
Sure.
And in that story, the governess thought that Quint was trying to possess the boy, or successfully possessing the boy, and Jessel was possessing the girl. I don't know if I read it as being quite so straightforward as that. Like, maybe she's being lured out to the pond by the ghost of Jessel, and maybe she kind of does go into a trance when that happens. And it's like, is Jessel trying to make her drown herself? Is this even
to
actually
what end? Yeah.
right? And like, is this even actually the ghost of Rebecca Jessel, or is this some other ghost that is taking the mask of Rebecca Jessel?
Yeah.
It's like, why do I say that? It's just because I don't like. There's no reason why Jessel would have any desire to kill Flora. That's like, he even just doesn't quite make sense to me. So I feel like I'm missing something there.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it does seem like, Quint is interested in Miles and like staring at him through the window, and Jessel is interested in Flora, trying to like get her attention over at the lake. Maybe lure her into the water. I don't know.
Yeah, and perhaps we could assume that wonderful scene in the first episode, the split diopter, where Flora's in the bathtub and she's looking at someone standing there that's definitely not there, that perhaps that was the ghost of Jessel standing there, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the very quick switch on the butterfly clip of was actually just like, she just told her, hey, I actually don't care about that. And that's why she's like, oh, no, never mind, it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, there's definitely we talk about the like layeredness of Miles's performance, but I think there's a similar layeredness with hers. It's just she's a younger kid, and so there's less explicit manipulativeness. It's more just like she has her like serious face, where it's like, why is that not where it's supposed to be? And then she has her everything's perfectly lovely face, which, I mean, the tragic part, I think, of her character is we're probably going to find out that face is not genuine.
Yeah.
Which is sad to think about, because it's like, she's this lovely little kid, and it's like, no, she's actually this like horribly sad, traumatized little kid who's putting on a brave face to hide whatever it is that's actually happening here.
Yeah, I mean, again, the use of perfectly splendid, like what started out as this kind of very cute, adorable little thing in the first episode, the second you realize that she got that from Jessel, you're like, oh no, oh God, right. That's awful. That she was so kind of enamored, and like, you think like maybe this is kind of what the Tales story is about, is like, she went looking for her parents, and what she found was Ms Jessel. She found a comfy sweater that she could use the yarn to stay warm from, and then the world took that away from her as well.
Yeah.
And so like, maybe even a confused kid who, as Peter puts it in the episode, like, their parents just left and they never came back. That's not what happened with Jessel, right? She remember, Flora is the one that found the body of Ms Jessel in that lake. So maybe this is the death that the loss of her parents is something she hasn't fully properly even processed yet. But the loss of Rebecca Jessel was like clear and evident and right in front of her. And like, that's the one that's really fucking her up. And so the insistence on the repetitive, perfectly pleasant or perfectly splendid is heartbreaking, because it's like, you're trying to summon her back. And how fucked up is it that she's here, right? So like, maybe Flora's also seeing this woman every day in ghost form, and how that does a number on a person as well. Like, you can't mourn a person if they're still there.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I think she's a horribly fucked up little girl.
Yeah. I'm very worried about these two kids.
Mm-hmm. There is one interesting thing that I just wanted to call out, is when they're talking about Flora and the lake, and Danny's like big confusion over like, why would she go to the lake? She hates the lake. She always talks about how she hates the lake. And then Miles comes in and says she doesn't hate it though. She doesn't hate it at all. And then she's like, well, why would she say it then? And Miles' response is, well, Flora lies. And it's like, what are we supposed to take? What are we supposed to make of that? Right.
Yeah.
Like, do we believe him? And that like, this is what you're talking about, that there's more going on under the surface of this kid that we've seen so far. Or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is. Like, I increasingly confident that like the kids know what's going on here, at least infinitely more than the adults do, if not completely, and they
Yeah.
have their system of rituals and totems and dolls and whatever to sort of keep things under control, and maybe they even feel or believe correctly that like the Jessel and Quint died because they broke some rule or because the kids were like prevented from taking some steps to protect them that they should have took it that they should have taken but they weren't able to.
Sure.
I go back to the locking her in the closet moment where it's like clearly they felt like they had to do that. It was extremely important that they do that. They were willing to take a cost to their relationship.
Yeah.
That they're willing to incur punishments. Why did they think they had to do that? And then we don't know. But
yeah.
I'm sure we will at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. So yeah, I think we'll just kind of wait and see there. But I agree with you. The show is definitely gesturing that they're the most knowledgeable about what's going on in this house. And of course, yeah, like everyone thinks Peter Quint is either gone or creeping around the property looking for Rebecca. Well, we know Miles at least knows that no, he's here and a ghost smirking at me from the window.
Right. Yeah, because Miles saw him and said nothing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did want to talk about the reflections though, because I think that we've seen enough now over the course of these 3 episodes that this is I think a very used motif in this story. Like we have, of course, Danny's thing with the mirror and what she sees her glasses boy ghost in the mirror every time she looks at it. We also have like the recurrence of water in the story. Like there's a lot of water imagery, especially in the first episode, and reflections in water. The reason I bring this up is because the moment we are introduced to Rebecca Jessel, the first time we meet her as she's sitting waiting for her interview with Henry Wingrave, we meet her through the reflection of her face in the kind of the fold out, the compact mirror she's using to do touch-ups on makeup on her face right before she goes into the interview. And like that really stuck out to me because that feels like an intentional, like we are doing a thing with reflections here. And of course, I haven't even talked about the fact that we see Peter Quint in the reflection of the glass, right, as a ghost. And then that is the transition point to the past in this episode that we transition to him standing in front of the tailoring shop, looking at a reflection of his face while he's window shopping. So like, we're definitely doing something with this here. Yeah. Like we still don't know who Danny's glasses guy is. But I think there is a reason why he is primarily up until this point appeared to her in mirrors and only in mirrors up until the very end of this episode.
I forgot about that transition shot where he's standing looking at the suit mannequin, and
yeah, that's great.
That made me so happy. Yeah, I agree. I think we already in a previous episode talked about the connection between the surface of water being a mirror and mirrors being the way that you commune with the spirit world. I feel like this is kind of a Victorian idea.
Yeah.
Which is sort of in keeping with at least the subject matter of the story it was based on.
Yeah. Mirrors are creepy, man.
Yeah.
There's something not right in them. We talked about this during the Oculus episode a lot, right? There's something just slightly off about reflections and mirrors always. And so using that as a tool to communicate visual information about your characters in a story is great. I love it.
Yep.
I did want to talk about something that I'm sure Mike Flanagan doesn't like.
Okay, tell us.
There's an instance of ADR in this episode. Yeah. I caught it. I'm not proud of it. I have to bring it up. It's my job. But there is one. And I actually went full detective mode with this, Matt, because it was actually just an accident. I just happened to have... I watch these episodes a lot of times in the preparation for the show, and then sometimes it's literally at work having them on my phone. I have 5 minutes and I just pop Netflix on and pick up wherever I left off. Well, this just happened to be the part where I had just happened to have left off. and it pressed play. And I thought what was happening is sometimes my headphones and my phone, like the audio video timing gets off for technological reasons that I don't quite understand. And so I thought that's what was happening, is that it just wasn't syncing correctly. But no, it's ADR. So there is a sequence in the show where I believe it is the following morning after Danny sees Peter in the window and they do all the sleepover night stuff. She goes into his room and finds that he's already awake and dressed, and that's when he starts asking her if we can go for a picnic. And I think he says something to the effect of like, when you find Flora, we can go get her and then go to the picnic. And then Danny says, what do you mean when we find Flora? Isn't she in her room?
What do you mean?
And the beginning of that sentence, her mouth is definitely not saying the beginning words. And then we very quickly cut to a behind her head shot where she says the rest of the line. And I'm like, the classic image of ADR. And I went back to the email that Mike sent us when we were talking about ADR back in Hill House, and he listed all the shows and movies that he was very proud of that did not use any ADR in it. And you know, it wasn't on that list. The Haunting of Bly Manor. So I am mildly curious, like what the story of this one is, like what happened here. Like it doesn't feel to me like it was just that we didn't get the right pickup of sound in that scene. It feels almost as if they retooled a scene, similar to what they did with the Jamie introduction scene in the first episode. That's what it felt like to me, is maybe that scene was supposed to do something else. They retooled it for what they wanted to do in this episode, and so they had to do a little bit of dialogue replacement to make that work.
Yeah, maybe it was a longer scene and they decided like, okay, we're just establishing that Flora's not in her room, and then they just wanted to do that more efficiently than whatever they did in the first place.
That
makes sense.
I bet I'm the only person that noticed this. So Mr. Flanagan, if you're listening, nobody caught it.
Yeah.
Nobody did. Not even me. I just made it up.
Yeah.
It never happened.
It's not real.
I mean, I am very fascinated by those little things, because like it makes you wonder what the story behind it on set was, because like one of the fun things about movie making to me is like just the forever problem solving of like I think we like to, when we're talking about stories and when we're analyzing movies and television and these things, like we like to live in a world in which every single choice was because I wanted to do it this way. And the truth is that so many of the choices are because there's no other way we could have possibly done it. Yeah. And that creates art, right? That's what art exists, in this liminal space between your vision and reality. And I think that's fascinating, that like the ways in which you have to problem solve and do things and do other things. And like we talked about in the very first episode, I am endlessly fascinated by the fact that they constructed an entire scene out of something completely different, because they just didn't have the time or money to actually film the original scene that they wrote. That's cool. That's cool stuff. And it does something extra, you know, it allows you to glom on to this Danny Jamie thing before maybe you would have otherwise. And now 3 episodes in, we see why we were doing that, why we were making Jamie so special and stick out so much. It's because Danny kind of has the hots for her.
Yeah. And that all makes sense now, for sure.
Yeah. And that wasn't even intended originally, but that's right. That's the magic of movie making.
Yeah, I think a lot of what turned out to be kind of the funniest or best things were actually just like in the moment problem solving, or you know, that's the classic lightning in a bottle scenario, is just like, well, it wasn't planned, it wasn't intended, but then it turned out to work out amazingly, so we kept it. So anyway, I agree. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just one thing I think we mentioned when we were chatting beforehand, but I don't know if we got it on recording, was talking about the how the beginning of the episode feels so much like the beginning of The Great Good Place.
Oh, yes.
Short story. Where I feel like, I mean, there may be another reference to that, obviously, somewhere in the story, but that moment, because that's a very simple short story where it's like a man who is overwhelmed by his duties is relieved of those duties by a well-meaning assistant, essentially.
Yeah.
And we see our barrister passed out on his desk, And then his well-meaning assistant comes in and lifts the weight off his shoulders and pours some hair of the dog for him. And it immediately struck me as being like, oh, this is just like this is the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's complaining about the fact that he has this early meeting and this morning that he's feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, and that's exactly what happens with Henry Wingrave in this scene. Yeah. It's I think an intentional allusion to. I mean, obviously there's nothing great good placey about where that scene goes, but I think the setup of it is we're channeling some Henry James there for sure.
Agreed.
And this is why we read it, right? This is we can catch up on these things and be like, he's doing a thing here, and it's great. I love it. One thing I did want to mention, I think we're in just the mentioning random stuff part of the episode, but there's a moment when Danny goes to bed, and I think it's when she sees the hand of which I think we're supposed to assume this is glowy eye glasses guy reach his hand up on the side of the bed, and she freaks out about it. There's a moment where she lays back and down on the bed on her back and puts her hands up against the bed frame and pushes off of against it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the way the camera is placed, the way she makes the action. It is identical to the scene from Hill House episode 3. I think episode 3 was Touch, the one that focuses on Theo. When Theo lays down on the couch in the child molester's basement and gets the feeling and the overwhelming feeling of the horrible things that have happened there, she puts her hands up on the and pushes off the couch top in the exact same way. It's almost an identical shot. Right? It feels that way intentionally. Like we talked last week about the Come Home poster and how these two stories, while existing in basically entirely different universes, are echoing off of each other in some certain ways.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if the relevance of that shot is going to tie into who this guy is.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. Maybe.
We do see the way the episode ends is it's sometimes these shows are so mean, right? We have this happy moment for Danny where she finally works up the courage to act upon the thing that she's feeling, and perhaps Jamie is feeling as well. Which, by the way, I just want to say to all of our gay and bi listeners out there, I don't know how the fuck y'all do it, because I have enough trouble telling if someone's flirting with me, living under the assumption that most people are heterosexual, and therefore I know that you at least are interested in my in my gender. I don't know how you flirt with people when you aren't 100% sure if they're even
right
on your team in that regard. That just seems like an impossible situation to navigate.
Right.
I don't know how people do that.
Maybe
but
they're just being friendly. Yeah.
yeah. I have a hard enough time telling if a girl is flirting with me. So yeah, I can't imagine having to do that extra step. That sounds exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a brave moment where all she does is grab her hand, right? All she does is grab Jamie's hand in that moment. And I love Jamie's who would have thought, as she gets into her car moment. And it's just they didn't kiss. It was just a small recognition of, I think you're feeling the thing I'm feeling. I'm letting you know that I'm feeling the thing that you're feeling. And just adorable, wonderful. And then of course she turns around, and no longer in the mirror, but standing right in front of her is Glasses Man.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be happy, Danny. I'm sorry.
Right. Glasses Man, who then sort of gets dramatically and violently sucked into the house.
Yeah, yanked backwards in the house. Yeah.
Which is quite one of the more, possibly most overtly supernatural thing we've ever seen in the show, where it's just there's the metaphorically, I was just okay, so the house is claiming him as one of its ghosts now, perhaps.
Sure. Yeah. You brought this ghost with you, and it lives here now. Yeah.
And maybe that means it won't just be in mirrors anymore. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Oh God. Yeah. We'll find out. Really exciting stuff. There's so much. I'm really enjoying the show. There's so much going on, but there's also so much that is going to lead to more stuff that we're going to get to talk about next week and the week after and all this. So, it's been a delight. I've loved these conversations.
Me too.
Anything else you had before we wrap this thing up?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right. Well, that was episode 3. I guess let's do that. Like, this is episode 3, The Two Faces Part 1, right?
Mhm.
Which indicates that there will be a episode, The Two Faces Part 2. Which, spoilers, there is. We're not going to get there next week, but there will be another episode later in this season called The Two Faces Part 2. So why do you think we did that this way? Besides the fact that it has the word 2 in it, so we might as well do it twice.
I don't know. I mean, just it depends on, who are the two faces, right? Because I think my interpretation of the two faces was like, it's actually the two ghosts. It's Jessel and Quint. And then I think, you laid out a fairly persuasive case that it's like, well, we sort of have Jessel and Danny as being two sides of the same coin. But, if it is Jessel and Quint, then like this one can be about Quint and then the part 2 would be about Jessel.
Yeah.
More centrally, right? And also just like this way, like narratively, I guess one easy answer is we have told the first half of the backstory of the love, quote unquote, between Rebecca and Peter, and then the part 2 will be the flashbacks to the second half of that story where we see how they die.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been maybe playing all the cards too quickly if we had seen that at this point. But we did want to see, what was going on with them. What was this relationship? So that's just the practical reason, maybe, to split it. I didn't, you basically just said this, but I, before looking, would have assumed like part 2 would be the next episode. But no, the next episode is The Way It Came. And the Two Faces part 2 is later. So.
Yep. I think it's the 7th episode, The Two Faces Part 2. So yeah, we've got a few to go before there. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think just to channel the short story that we read, The Two Faces is a short story in which we are kind of led to believe the two faces, and that could have multiple meanings as well, right? Like we see the woman in that story as being a little two-faced, where she took this young girl under her wing and pretended to help introduce her to society, but was really laying a trap for her. But then the other meaning of it was that the two faces of that woman and her horrible, evil face of satisfaction at someone else's suffering. And then the other face, which is the young woman in that story who is like beautiful in her blissful ignorance of her own destruction. So I think the use of this, our knowledge of the story and the use of the title of the story here primes us for saying, oh, this could have multiple meanings. So yeah, yes, Peter Quint is a very two-faced person. Yes, there's this episode is doing a lot to compare Jessel and Danny. But yeah, I think you're right. There's also the Jessel and Peter side of it, that those could be these, as we said, these are the two ghosts we've seen so far that have faces. So I think you're right on there, and my answer is all of the above, essentially.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So as you said, episode 4 will be The Way It Came, which is both one of our favorite of the Henry James stories we read in preparation for the show. So I'm excited to see how Flanagan and his team are going to channel that story, if at all, in this next episode. I'm pretty pumped about that.
Me too.
All right, let's get to discussion question, Matt. This will be the question we asked on the very first episode of the show, The Great Good Place. And what was that question once again, Matt?
What's your favorite creepy dollhouse? All right.
Sweet, simple and sweet. Yeah. That's
right. From Busy Dad 82, Hereditary is a really good, great, great. I get it. Good, great, creepy one, especially when Toni Collette's character starts to build models of her daughter's death scene, as if doing so gives her any control over her daughter's fate. The dollhouses are an interesting metaphor for the family's helplessness when it comes to the circumstances surrounding its own collapse. The cult of Paimon had been pulling the strings of the family since before its inception, and all the outcomes were predetermined. This adds a little more weight to Toni's monologue, where she freaks out at the dinner table, saying nobody can admit what they've done. Of course they can't. They had no agency in their decisions. They were simply pieces moved on a board or dolls moved around a house. Gotta watch that movie.
Yeah. You've never seen it?
Nope.
Well, guess what, Matt? It's currently number 17 on our list of the best 25 films of the 21st century. So you don't have a choice. You will be watching that movie.
Got a few weeks left to steel myself for that.
I can happily say that was one of my most viscerally uncomfortable theater-going experiences of my entire life. It was disturbing and terrifying and wonderful, and I've never squirmed in my seat. I watched it by myself alone because my wife doesn't really like horror movies, but I really wanted to see that movie. And my God, delightful. Loved it.
Delightful. Okay.
Next we have Pear Jane, who says, creepy dollhouses are my favorite. I first thought of a 1983 middle grade novel, The Dollhouse Murders by Betty Wren Wright. It features a girl visiting her aunt, check, and finding a dollhouse in the attic, check, that is a replica of the house she's in, check, and the realization that the dolls are moving at night, check. The dolls, of course, are haunted by the spirits of her great-grandparents enacting the night of their murder in the home. The teenager solves the crime, and the dolls can rest easy in their house. I remember wanting to enjoy the book more than I did. I was less interested in crime solving than in ghost hunting, which probably gives some insight into my 8-year-old brain. Food for thought. A requirement of a creepy dollhouse is that it's a replica of the real house. I think that feels true, right? That the reason why dollhouses are creepy is because it's like a miniaturized version of the real world.
Yeah. And I think it's no surprise that like the correspondence between the dolls and the dollhouse and the real world and the real people is what makes it unnerving, that it's like, does this mean something? What is the significance of this? We project onto it and then get freaked out about those projections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scarlet Claret says, my favorite creepy dollhouse is the detailed replica of the family Pig Money Mansion in Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. 13-year-old Amma is caught between Mommy's little baby and Queen Bee of the town's under 21 set. She bullies adults by night and obsesses over making sure the dollhouse upholstery exactly matches the real life furniture. Of course, even the flooring must be made of accurate materials. Creepy kid, creepy dollhouse combo for bonus points. I don't know what any of this means. Haven't seen this or watched or read it, or is it?
They made a television show out of it too, starring Amy Adams, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
Pretty good TV show. Good book. Gone Girl's better, but good book.
Cool.
Good TV show. Bent Westward says, for the discussion question, I am going to have to go with A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. First off, this is my favorite Elm Street film, mine too. It is a balanced blend of what when Freddy was scary, but also has a healthy dose of camp within its inpatient psychiatric with inpatient psychiatric patient teenagers using the power of dreams to fight back against an unstoppable supernatural force. In this pinnacle mid-80s horror cinema, the protagonist Kristen builds a dollhouse that is a replica of the Elm Street house. This dollhouse is not just a hobby or a background prop. It becomes a psychological anchor for Kristen's dreams and trauma. There are several scenes where she drifts off to sleep, and the dollhouse is used to transition into the nightmare world. Kristen and the other teens are like dolls in Freddy's twisted game, manipulated and confined within his dream architecture. By recreating the house, Kristen is both confronting and reliving trauma, a heavy topic in light of the downward trajectory of the franchise. At the film's end, a light turns on inside the dollhouse, signaling that the nightmare is not over. What's your history with the Nightmare on Elm Street films, Matt? Have you seen any of them?
I don't think so.
Oh, man.
I have one of those like hallucinatory memories from being like really young and seeing a few scenes from it and nothing making sense. Which I think
Sure.
I think every child of the 80s has those memories where they saw stuff that was on TV that they shouldn't have seen, and
Yes.
their brain did something with it, and it's buried deep down in the brainstem now. But no, I've never sat down and watched these movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I watched as a kid like the Halloween and Friday like the big three, right, with Jason, Michael, and then Freddy, and I think I liked them all, and they all scared me in different ways. The thing that I like about Nightmare on Elm Street so much is this idea that like you have to go to sleep eventually. You
Mhm.
can't stay awake forever. And that I like definitely saw the first Elm Street movie too young, and that really attached to me in a way of like, you're gonna go to sleep. You can't not go to sleep, and he's gonna get you. And I have a lot of distinct memories of that.
Oh, I just remembered I have seen one of them.
Okay.
Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace.
What? Oh, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
We counted The Shining as the Shining adaptation.
I guess that's fair. Why do they both have Willie in them?
What do you mean, Willie?
Like, yeah, Willie features prominently in both The Shining and Evergreen Terrace. I mean, I guess he's Freddy in Evergreen Terrace.
That is kind of a funny observation. Well, yeah, interesting. I don't know if there's a reason for that. So,
should we say what we're talking about? It's another Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode. They did Nightmare on Elm Street, essentially.
Yes.
I think it's the same one with the... I feel like I watched this one a lot. Is it the same one with the 3D? Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, it's one of the two best ones. The other of which was the one with The Shining.
Yeah.
Probably seen these a disproportionate number of times. All right. glad we talked about that for several minutes.
Too long.
Yeah. All right. And finally, Aqua Lungfish says, apparently I thought I responded to the question, but just fell asleep or something. Every dollhouse is creepy. But if I have to pick one, I'm picking the one from the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, The Tale of the Doll Maker. Basically, a girl goes into her neighbor's house after they move away for unknown reasons and finds an exact replica of the house in the attic. Then she finds a door in the attic, which should lead outside, but actually brings her inside the dollhouse. There she finds the girl who used to live in the house, turning into a porcelain doll, and begins to turn into one herself. Things happen, the day is saved, but still it's horrifying. The image of the girl turning into a doll and having her hand break off stuck with me for years. It was so stuck in my brain that I wasn't even completely sure where it was from. I had to look it up, look up if this show had a dollhouse episode. In conclusion, dolls are creepy, porcelain ones especially. Please keep them away from me.
Hey, you know what happened is that same image was horribly scarred in my brain, and yet my brain defeated the image, and it was gone until you just read that out loud.
Great.
And then it all came horribly crashing back, and I remember this so vividly and distinctly. And it's, yeah, I watched this as a kid, and it scared the ever-living shit out of me. She gets like, her face gets all like porcelain too slowly. It's so creepy, man. I mean, I'm sure I watch it now and it's just silly and dumb, but like, yeah. The idea of her hand breaking off was just,
Isn't human memory just a curse?
Yes, absolutely.
You think you're free, and then
it all comes back.
You're just reading a discussion question.
Yeah, and it reconnects those pathways in your brain, and it's like you just watched the episode.
Yeah. You're like, no, I thought I escaped you. So this would be a good like horror concept.
Yeah, anyway, it would.
Yeah. And then just a few quick summaries of the remaining answers. Thanks for your contributions, everyone. Party Television 2255 chooses the Night House, where the husband builds a mirror image replica home to sacrifice dolls, stand-ins of the protagonist to trick a malevolent entity. Cool. Baby Can You Dig Your Sam selects Patricia Arquette's paper mache Elm Street dollhouse from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, praising the blood vessel marionette scene. Dern Longbeard reframes The Indian in the Cupboard as a necromancy tale, where a boy traps souls in plastic toys for gladiatorial combat, confirming fireballs beat ghouls.
I read this one. It was great. Well done, Darren. Well done.
Yeah, I love Indian in the Cupboard. That's I feel like that the Indian in the Cupboard movie was like one of those things where I was deeply disturbed by the implications, like the ethical implications of having a cupboard that brings to life and like I was just like, and then they die, and then like what? Like I basically saw it as like science fiction, you know.
Sure.
Anyway, Notorious LYD.
Ooh.
or Notoriously D, maybe. Not sure which of those two jokes we're making. References Joss Whedon's show Dollhouse, where people are memory wiped and rented out until the technology destroys humanity.
And I wanted to like Dollhouse more than I did. There's some good stuff in there, but yeah, the ending kind of sucks.
Sounds bad.
They got canceled and just rushed to an ending, and it's like, what is happening? What is happening? Yeah, Joss Whedon's gotten canceled a lot of times.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, what is going to be our question for this episode?
Next time, or next episode is favorite example of the wrong kind of love.
Yeah, so we got Rebecca Jessel and Peter Quint as our Bly Manor examples here, but there are plenty of examples out there in the world. Get creative with this one, do whatever you want, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this week. As we said, episode 4 of Bly Manor continues next week. It's titled The Way It Came. If people forgot, that's the one about the two people who saw the ghosts of their parents and were just trying to meet and never got to until one of them died.
And then they got to meet.
Maybe before or after. We don't know. How could that be used in this episode? I don't know. We'll find out next week.
Probably because one of them is going to die and then see the ghost of the other one, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Remember, you can reach us via email at flanaganswakepod@gmail.com, on X at flanaganswake19, and on the subreddit at reddit.com/r/doofmedia. Don't forget that every episode is available on video on Spotify. Also on the inferior platform, YouTube, that forces us to cut the episodes up and cut stuff out of them because they're so restrictive.
We have developed a new strategy for how to deal with that stuff, and you should see it on. I think actually people might have already seen it on last week's episode, but we're just changing how we display the clips that we're cutting to. But it's been a pain. So just watch on Spotify. It's better.
It's better.
If you want to get some merchandise, you can do it at doofmedia.myshopify.com. I believe by the time this episode comes out, Halloween will be over in reality, but never in our hearts, right? So right. It's a perfect time to get a Mike Flanagan's disembodied hand shirt and a bunch of other great pieces of merch we have there. I can't remember if we talked about the Crocodile at Cat Cafe mug and t-shirt last week or not. I think that came out right around the time we recorded. So we've got some new merch in the shop. If this is a repeat from last week, sorry, but there's a mug from Midnight Mass, the Crocodile and Cat Cafe. I can't even describe it to you, except it's delightful. And if you've seen Midnight Mass, you know what this is referencing. And I think you should get the mug and the shirt and a hat that says Tuesday. Just like, so you can be like me.
That's right.
That's doofmedia.myshopify.com. Please check it out and get your merch. It looks good, and you'll be the most popular person in your school.
In your town.
Yeah.
If you like Flanagan's Wake and you want to support us, then please consider donating to our Patreon account at patreon.com/doofmedia. We should have a recent episode of our podcast covering the television show From, and just a huge backlog of discussions of Stephen King adaptations and lots of stuff. So lots of bonus podcast content over on that feed.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're a paid patron, you can vote on the doofmovies.com website, and that will determine the order in which we discuss the movies over on the Doofcast feed. So
yeah, our patrons have made Matt have to watch Hereditary, which is just delightful to me. So Just think of all the other wonderful things you can force Matt to watch.
Yeah, that's true. People haven't fully recognized their power, I think.
Yeah. If you cannot afford to donate, that is absolutely okay. You can help us out by sharing the podcast. Please keep that up. Please keep sharing it. And by leaving us rating and reviews. Once again, no review to read this week, but I hope you folks will send some new ones in so we get to read those on the show. We like to show you folks our appreciation for you taking the time to do that. So please send those in and we will read them on the show. One more thing you should do, I should have said this at the very top of the show, Matt, but you should check out our Kingslingers feed, because for the next 8 weeks, I will be doing a show talking about the newest HBO television series, It, Welcome to Derry. I will be doing a week-by-week episode of that with our good friend Kim C. I think she's been a guest on this podcast before. She's a podcaster as well. She does the Year of Underrated Stephen King podcast, which you should also check out because it's great. But you should subscribe to our Kingslingers feed, because we're doing that episode by episode. By the time this thing comes out, I think we'll be 2 episodes in. But as we record this, we haven't released any, which is the weirdness of time.
Yeah.
But it will be a good show, presumably.
I'm sure it will.
So check that out. And I think that's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. Once again, we'll be back next week for episode 4 of The Haunting of Bly Manor. We're moving our way through it already. I can't believe it.
I'm having so much fun.
We'll be done before we know it. But for now, rest in peace, Mr. Flanagan.